In retrospect, I believe that my conceit proved to be my downfall. I was Tanner Bender and Jones's newest and most talented attorney, the new golden boy. I was 10 years out of Harvard and had been heavily recruited into the big times of corporate law in New York City by TB and J. When it comes to law, corporate was where the big money was, and we handled some of the largest hedge fund companies on Wall Street. I was on the fast track for partnership. I had a beautiful wife, Samantha, 2 small children, and a secretary, Tiffany, whom I loved to bend over my desk. Her husband, Henry, was in the military and spent a lot of time on deployment. I hadn't met him yet, but I knew he was home for a 30-day leave and would be coming to the corporate Christmas party that night. From what I knew, he was an enlisted man, not even an officer, and this was my chance to show some dominance over Cy Boy. There was no reason for it. I didn't even know him, but I could never resist the chance to strut a little. Nothing overtly, of course, especially with Samantha there, but simply by comparison. I had money, education, style, things he simply couldn't compete with. The affair was formal, and I doubted his rented tux would compete with my $5,000 Italian-made one. I had a brief word with security just to make sure he didn't start any trouble. I still remember his first appearance in the ballroom. Think of Brad Pitt, only handsome and more buff. He was around 28 or 29 and wore a Marine Corps evening dress uniform that looked like it had grown on him as a second skin. It somehow made the rest of us with our Italian designers and fashionable tuxes seem shabby. I don't think there was a woman under 50 and probably quite a few over 50 whose panties didn't suddenly get wet when he walked in and looked around. He seemed to have a way of seeing nothing and everything at a glance, and I could tell he had made and acknowledged the discreet security. Introductions were made, and shaking his hand, I realized that he might look like Brad Pitt from a distance, but up close, he looked more formidable. His face was young, but his eyes were clear, determined, and focused. Soon, we were all seated together, the ballroom being set with tables for 8. Tiffany, being my secretary, sat at my table with my wife, another older lawyer, his secretary, and their respective spouses. Henry and Tiffany sat across from my wife and me. "What is it you do in the Marines, Mr. Smith?" my wife asked him. "Call me Henry, please, Mrs. Brady," he said. "I lead a scout sniper squad. It is comprised of 3 scout sniper teams." "What is a scout sniper team?" "Basically, each team is comprised of 3 members," he replied. "The sniper, the spotter, and the backup. The sniper is the shooter, the spotter picks the targets, verifies the results, and backs up the sniper, and the backup covers their backs. So while the sniper and spotter are focused on the enemy in front, he covers their backs and sides from attack." He looked directly at me for the next part. "In a way, it is a lot like a marriage. Each team member depends on the other, and it requires a high level of trust. The sniper can't cover his own back, so he trusts the backup to do it. Both the sniper and spotter are trained scout snipers, so can interchange as needed, but it is really a 3-man team, and each needs to have complete trust in the other." "So you don't do the actual shooting then?" my wife asked him. "Not so much anymore. I used to be the lead sniper on a team, but I do that less and less now." Tiffany and I exchanged glances. "You used to shoot people?" she asked him. "I do. I have 43 confirmed kills," he said. "You killed 43 people?" she asked him. "No, dear," he replied. She looked relieved. "I said I have 43 confirmed kills. I probably killed 5 or 10 times that number over the years. Typically, with the scout part of Scout Sniper, you don't keep track of the men you killed. Once you get over 100, you begin to lose count." "I must say, this salmon is really good. You don't seem to be eating, dear. Is everything okay?" "It's just, I didn't know you killed people. I mean, I knew you were in the Marines, but I thought you were just a clerk or something." "No, dear, that's why I enlisted instead of taking a commission. I wanted to be able to qualify for Scout Sniper, and they don't train officers for that." I thought maybe I could regain some control here, so I chimed in. "Don't you need a college degree to become an officer?" I asked him. He looked at me kind of like I was a worm. "I have 2 degrees, one in Greek classics and one in Stoic philosophy," he said. "I will probably finish my PhD when this tour is over and go into teaching." "Really?" I asked him. "Where did you attend college?" "Cambridge. Any fool can go to Harvard, and Cambridge is probably the best classics program in the world," Teaching isn't the most lucrative job out there. Sure you wouldn't like to try something that makes a bit more money? I gave him that look again. How much money does a person need? Besides, my older brothers seem to have the make money bug and cover that part for me. You may know them, William and Jacob Taylor, TriJ Hedge Fund. Your brothers own TriJ? They are one of our biggest clients, I said. I had a slight sinking feeling in my stomach. If it ever came out that I was cheating on the brother of the owners of TriJ, my career was over. In a way, TriJ stands for Jacob, William, and Henry. When they wanted to start TriJ, we each pulled $500 million from our trust fund as seed money and pooled it. So technically we each own a third, but it is worth billions, he explained. Tiffany was looking at him wide-eyed. You have a $500 million trust fund? She asked. He just looked at her and shook his head a little sadly. You seem a bit disoriented tonight, dear, he said. I said I took $500 million out for their startup. Although technically the trust owns the stock in TriJ. I think there was about $400 million left at the time, but now I don't really know. It's worth probably $2 or $3 billion, so we are billionaires, he said. I am, he replied. You, however, get nothing from the trust during the divorce, so all you are really entitled to is based on my army pay. What divorce? Why, the one I am filing for adultery. Did you really think I would allow you to have an affair with this dickwad over here? He said, indicating to me. Both Samantha and I will be filing next week. I'm not having an affair, she said. Really? So those videos of him bending you over his desk and screwing you were what? Some form of exercise? He looked over at me. I shared them with your wife. She will be using them in her divorce as well. I was rapidly losing control of the situation and needed to do something to regain it. You can't use those videos. I don't care who you paid off. The law firm is private property, I said. He just gave me that same damn smile again. More of a smirk, really. Of course I can. Uncle William gave me his permission to videotape your office, so it is all legal and above board. Uncle William? Yes, William Tanner, the senior partner and namesake of Tanner, Bender, and Jones. He's married to my father's baby sister, Susan. He wasn't too happy with what you were doing on company time and company property. I think he's going to do his best to have you disbarred, he said. I saw him nod to someone off to the side, and suddenly there was a security man on each side of me. I saw two others over on Tiffany's side. If you will please come with us, sir, they said. Henry looked a little sadly at Tiffany. Go with these gentlemen, please, dear. They have some papers for you both, and don't bother coming home. I had the locks changed on the apartment. We were escorted from the room to the lobby where we were both served with divorce papers, and I had a restraining order placed on me. William Tanner wasn't able to have me disbarred, but he did fire me and blacklist me from getting a job in NYC again. I ended up chasing ambulances back in Kentucky. Samantha cleaned me out in the divorce. I think Henry paid for her lawyers and no one would touch my case. I ended up defending myself, and they had me dead to rights. Child support was based on the average of my prior 5-year income, and I was now making 1/10 of that. I think Tiffany ended up with her parents.